Welcome, friend. I'm James, your host, and today, we're diving into another captivating episode. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and get ready for a powerful story that's sure to resonate. If something hits home, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive in. Want my girlfriend? Threaten me? Take my whole shitty life, but it didn't work out like you thought. Buckle up, everyone. This is a tale of love, betrayal, and an unexpected twist of fate that unfolded in the bustling heart of Los Angeles. If you're looking for drama, heartbreak, and a pinch of poetic justice, you're in the right place. Picture this, the sun-drenched streets of LA, where dreams are supposed to flourish, yet underneath that glamorous facade lies a world filled with lies, deceit, and shattered hearts. The city is an intoxicating mix of palm trees swaying in the breeze and the constant hum of ambition in the air, yet it's also a breeding ground for the kind of heartbreak that hits you when you least expect it. In a city known for its illusions, my reality crumbled, and what was once a vibrant life turned into a landscape of despair and anger. So, I had this girlfriend, let's call her Sophie. At first glance, we seemed like a couple out of a rom-com, funny, adventurous, always laughing. We were the quintessential pair, a couple that friends envied, capturing those Instagram-perfect moments that masked the brewing storm beneath the surface. Friends would often tease us about how we were the perfect couple, how we made each other better, but behind the facade was a chaotic whirlwind of unresolved issues. We were undeniably bad for each other, a toxic cocktail of love and chaos. Arguments would erupt out of nowhere, fueled by jealousy and misunderstandings that never seemed to get resolved. I should have seen the signs, but love is a funny thing, it blinds you to the truth. I often found myself questioning if our passion was real love or just a passionate mess. One fateful evening, everything came crashing down. I returned home after a long day, my mind still tangled in work stress, only to find a series of messages lighting up my phone. Curiosity gnawed at me, and before I knew it, I was knee-deep in a sea of damning texts between Sophie and another guy. My heart raced as I read her sweet nothings, the flirtations that dripped with deceit, each message a dagger to my heart. It felt like I was living in a twisted reality show where I was the unsuspecting victim, and the worst part? I was still clinging to hope that this was some sort of misunderstanding. My stomach twisted as I realized I was being played for a fool. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss of betrayal. With each text I uncovered, my heart shattered into a million pieces, leaving me gasping for breath, feeling suffocated by the reality that this person I trusted was capable of such treachery. It was too much to bear. I confronted her, my voice shaking with disbelief. "Sophie, is this for real? Who the hell is this guy?" The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of my heartbreak. The living room, once filled with laughter and love, felt cold and oppressive, as if the walls themselves were witnesses to this betrayal. She spun a web of lies, claiming it was just a fling, a mistake, trying to paint herself as the innocent victim in this sordid affair. My heart pounded in my chest, anger surging through me as I realized the extent of her deception. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The emotional blow sent me spiraling into a full-blown mental breakdown. I was a wreck, trapped in a whirlwind of anger and heartbreak, a storm raging inside me that I couldn't control. I spent sleepless nights tossing and turning, replaying every moment of our relationship, searching for clues I might have missed. My friends tried to console me, offering platitudes that felt hollow and empty. It felt like I was in a fog, unable to see the light. The betrayal echoed in my mind like a haunting melody, reminding me that love could turn bitter in an instant. Then there was Chad, the guy she was cheating with. Let's just say he wasn't exactly a beacon of maturity. Convinced that I was the villain of the piece, he decided to threaten me with violence. The guy had the nerve to text me, spewing venomous threats and puffing his chest like a rooster. "Stay away from Sophie, or you'll regret it," he claimed, as if he were some sort of knight in shining armor. I laughed, but deep down, I felt a pang of fear. It was laughable yet terrifying. I found myself questioning my own strength and worth. Who did he think he was? This guy, who didn't know the first thing about the love I had for Sophie, was now trying to intimidate me. The irony of a guy who couldn't even respect the boundaries of another relationship trying to protect his own was not lost on me. My hands trembled as I read his messages, a mix of anger and disbelief swirling within me. This was the new low I never anticipated, and it only added fuel to the fire of my rage. I imagined confronting him, but a voice in my head reminded me that violence wasn't the answer. Yet, with each threat he sent, my resolve to stand up for myself only grew stronger. After our explosive breakup, Sophie moved out, waltzing straight into Chad's arms. I was left in our cramped LA apartment, drowning in despair, surrounded by memories that turned bitter as the days passed. The space we once filled with laughter and love now felt like a prison, a constant reminder of the love I lost. I wandered through the apartment, touching the items we had shared, the soft blanket we cuddled under during movie marathons, the pictures we took during our travels, now just echoes of a happier time. My mind was a storm of chaotic thoughts, each memory stabbing like a knife. I'd see her favorite coffee mug sitting in the sink, and it would trigger a cascade of emotions: anger, love, confusion. I was trapped in an echo chamber of what could have been, haunted by the laughter that used to fill those walls. Each corner of the apartment whispered memories, from the mismatched furniture we collected together to the wall adorned with pictures of our happier days. The silence became deafening, and I realized I was not just grieving a relationship, I was mourning the life I thought I had. That's when I decided to seek help. Therapy became my lifeline. Each session was a painful excavation of my feelings, not just for Sophie but for my life as a whole. I was buried under the weight of it all, and I needed to break free. Months rolled by, and I began to piece myself back together, like a jigsaw puzzle missing key pieces. Therapy opened my eyes to the fact that I wasn't just heartbroken, I was utterly stuck, trapped in a life that felt more like a prison. I made a bold decision to uproot my life: new job, new apartment, the whole shebang. I spent evenings mapping out my escape plan, from job applications to apartment listings. I longed for a fresh start, a chance to reclaim the joy I once had. The day I received my new job offer was a turning point. I felt like I was finally taking the reins back, grabbing life by the horns and steering it in a new direction. Hope flickered in my chest, and for the first time in months, I allowed myself to believe that brighter days were ahead. I envisioned a life free from the chains of my past, filled with opportunities and new beginnings, where I could rediscover who I was outside of my relationship with Sophie. But then, the universe threw me a curveball. While sifting through emails at my old job, I stumbled upon one from our shared inbox. My heart sank as I recognized the name: Chad. He was applying for a position at the company I was desperately trying to leave. An idea, deliciously devious, sparked in my mind. My lips curled into a wicked smile, and I felt a rush of adrenaline course through my veins. This was my chance for revenge, a subtle but satisfying payback. I quickly crafted an email to my boss, singing Chad's praises. "He's a great candidate. I've heard nothing but good things. Plus, I'm leaving soon, so it would be fantastic to have him on board." I chuckled to myself, picturing the irony of the situation. It was almost too good to be true, a chance to turn the tables on the man who had tried to intimidate me. I imagined him stepping into my old role, struggling with the mess I had left behind, and it felt gratifying. Chad came in for an interview, and I was on the panel. The day of the interview, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as I prepared to face the man who had disrupted my life. I could hardly contain my amusement when we found ourselves alone in the room. "Dude, I'm really sorry for all the stuff I said," he began, his tone uncharacteristically humble. It was like watching a villain in a movie have a change of heart. "Thank you so much for helping me out." My heart raced at the opportunity to confront him without letting my emotions get the better of me. I couldn't resist the opportunity for a subtle jab. "No sweat, man. Sophie always had good things to say about you. I guess she has a good picker, huh? After all, she chose both of us." We exchanged awkward laughter, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I felt a rush of satisfaction as I watched him squirm, a moment of poetic justice that felt long overdue. Chad looked visibly uncomfortable, and I savored every second of it. It felt like I was watching karma unfold in real time. In that moment, I knew I had the upper hand, and it was a powerful feeling. Against all odds, he managed to impress the panel and landed the job. As I watched him walk out of the room, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of satisfaction and dread. He was stepping into a world filled with unresolved chaos, and I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The job that had brought me so much misery was now his burden to bear. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of his downfall, a poetic twist in our intertwining narratives. But here's where the plot thickens. That job turned out to be a total shit show. I'm not exaggerating when I say it was the worst experience of my life. The workload was absurd. I was drowning in responsibilities while my boss played favorites and allowed the office to spiral into chaos. Chad had no idea what he was getting into. The atmosphere was suffocating, filled with gossip and backstabbing, and I could see Chad trying to navigate the shark-infested waters of office politics. It felt like watching a deer caught in headlights. Inevitably, he would stumble. I could feel my own frustration bubbling to the surface as I remembered the toxic environment I had escaped, and yet I couldn't help but relish the thought of Chad suffering through it too. I often imagined him sitting at his desk, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of work and the demands of a boss who would never be satisfied. I could almost hear the sighs of defeat that would escape his lips, the same sighs I once let out in that very office. The day I finally walked out of there felt like liberation. I had escaped, leaving behind the chaos and toxicity that had consumed me for too long. As I stepped out into the bright California sun, the weight on my shoulders lifted. I took a deep breath, inhaling the fresh air that felt like a promise of new beginnings. No longer would I be defined by my past or shackled by memories of Sophie and Chad. I was free, and that realization felt exhilarating. The thrill of starting a new pulsed through my veins, filling me with hope. A month later, as I was packing up to move out of my old apartment, my landlord approached me with a question that would set off another chain reaction. "Do you know anyone looking for a place?" she asked casually. I paused, a mischievous grin creeping onto my face. "Actually, I do." "How about Chad?" I could hardly contain my laughter as I imagined the perfect setup for my old rival. I handed over his number, picturing the chaos that would ensue. The apartment had a charming facade but was riddled with hidden issues that would only become apparent once you moved in. My old buddy from the job called me, ecstatic about getting the place. Little did he know, he was stepping into my old life, the job, the apartment, and the heartbreak I'd left behind. I could envision Chad's face when he realized that the charm of the apartment was just a mask hiding the reality underneath. The leaky faucets, the broken heating, and the strange noises at night that kept me up, these were the treasures I was gifting him. I couldn't help but smile at the thought of him experiencing my old life, complete with its flaws and failures. As fate would have it, life had its own sense of irony. A couple of weeks after moving in, I received a text from a mutual friend who had seen Chad around town. "He's not doing so hot," they said. "I think he's regretting moving into your old place." I laughed out loud, picturing him battling with a broken air conditioner in the sweltering LA heat. It was a small consolation, but it felt good to know that the tables had turned. The satisfaction of knowing that he was now wrestling with my old demons brought a grin to my face. Then came the phone call that sealed the deal. Sophie had reached out to me. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. It was like a bolt of lightning hitting me out of nowhere. My first instinct was to hang up, but curiosity gnawed at me. Did she want to explain herself? Apologize? I agreed to meet her, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. When we sat down at a small cafe in Silver Lake, the air between us was thick with tension. I could see the remnants of her once vibrant spirit, now dulled by regret. She started to talk about how things were with Chad, and I leaned back, my heart racing. "He's not what I thought he was," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Things have been rough between us." A part of me reveled in her struggle, knowing that she had chosen this path. I just didn't see it then, she continued, her eyes searching for understanding in mine. It felt like a twisted version of the past, where she was now the one feeling the weight of betrayal. Do you remember when you told me you had good taste? I asked, my tone biting. Looks like you picked another loser. Her expression shifted, a mix of embarrassment and anger flashing across her face. I was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into her eyes, feeling the exhilaration of knowing I had the upper hand. In the end, she left the cafe, her head held high but her heart heavy. I realized then that I had moved on, leaving behind not just Sophie but the chains that had bound me to that painful chapter of my life. I felt lighter, like I had shed a skin that had been suffocating me. The closure I thought I needed came not from her words, but from the realization that I was no longer defined by my past. Fast forward a few months, and I was living my best life. I had settled into a new apartment, one that felt like home. I made new friends who filled my life with laughter and joy. I started focusing on my career, pouring my energy into projects that excited me rather than draining me. Each day felt like a fresh canvas, and I was determined to paint it with bright colors. The shadows of my past faded further into the background as I embraced new experiences, hiking trails in the nearby mountains, enjoying live music at local bars, and exploring the vibrant culture that Los Angeles had to offer. I felt alive, and it was a feeling I had almost forgotten. Then, just when I thought I was done with the past, I learned through the grapevine that Sophie and Chad had broken up. The news traveled like wildfire, and it filled me with an unexpected sense of relief. It was almost poetic, a fitting end to the twisted tale we had woven together. She had chosen the wrong path, and now she was left to pick up the pieces. I felt a strange mixture of sympathy and satisfaction, knowing that the universe had a way of righting wrongs. In the end, I learned that sometimes, losing everything can lead you to find yourself again. I had come out stronger, more resilient than ever, and I was ready to face whatever came my way. Life is good again, and I wouldn't trade my newfound freedom for anything. The past may have shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I stepped into the future with my head held high, ready for new adventures and the promise of brighter days ahead. TLDR, my girlfriend cheated on me with some guy who threatened me. I got back at him by referring him for my old job and apartment. He ended up with my ex, but they broke up 2 months later. Sometimes, life has a way of righting wrongs.